The Zombie Apocalypse, a comedy of errors. It all started, as most apocalypses do, on a Tuesday. I was in line at the DMV contemplating the existential dread of renewing my driver's license when Brenda from accounting started gnawing on the neck of the poor guy handing out those little number tickets. Now, Brenda was always a bit of a, well, let's just say she had a unique way of expressing herself. But this was new. Is she biting him? I asked the lady in front of me, who was wearing a hat shaped like a giant pineapple. Looks like it, she replied, adjusting her pineapple. Probably just hungry. You know how the office microwave is. But then, the ticket guy started biting the person next to him, and suddenly the pineapple lady and I realized this was a bit more serious than Brenda's usual mid-afternoon snack cravings. The next few hours were a blur of screaming, fleeing, and accidentally tripping over the elderly. I managed to escape the DMV with my license still expired, but armed with a stapler and a surprisingly effective pineapple hat shield. The streets were chaos, zombies, and let's be honest, they were pretty slow-moving, easily distracted zombies, were wreaking havoc. I saw a group of them mesmerized by a pigeon, another trying to figure out a revolving door. It was less Night of the Living Dead and more Weekend at Bernie's with decaying corpses. I teamed up with a guy named Gary, who claimed to be a survival expert, but mostly just knew a lot about artisanal cheese. Gary insisted we needed to find a secure location and fortify it. Our secure location turned out to be a bouncy castle in a Chuck E. Cheese. Genius, right? Gary said, brandishing a cheese knife. They can't get in here. He was right for a while, until a particularly determined zombie figured out how to deflate the bouncy castle by repeatedly face-planting into the air valve. Our next brilliant idea involved disguising ourselves as zombies. We covered ourselves in mud, ripped our clothes, and practiced our zombie moans. I thought I nailed it, but Gary kept saying I sounded like a constipated opera singer. The disguise worked surprisingly well until Gary got hungry and tried to eat a discarded pizza crust he found on the ground. A nearby zombie, clearly a pizza purist, took offense and tried to correct Gary's form, resulting in a full-blown zombie brawl over proper pizza-eating etiquette. Eventually, we stumbled upon a group of survivors who had taken refuge in a library. Turns out, zombies have a real aversion to knowledge. Who knew? Life in the library was surprisingly pleasant. We had books, comfortable chairs, and a strict no-biting policy. Brenda from accounting even showed up, surprisingly well-read and only occasionally craving brains. So, here I am, surviving the zombie apocalypse in a library, surrounded by books and the occasional moaning corpse. It's not exactly how I pictured my life, but hey, at least I'm finally getting around to reading War and Peace. And who knows, maybe I'll even renew my driver's license someday. If the zombies ever figure out how to operate the DMV computer, that is. The Great Toilet Paper Caper. It all started with a sneeze. A mighty, earth-shattering sneeze that reverberated through the supermarket like a sonic boom. It wasn't just any sneeze. It was the sneeze that launched 1,000 ships, or in this case, sparked a toilet paper frenzy. I was innocently browsing the organic kale section, contemplating whether or not to embrace my inner rabbit when the sneeze hit. Mrs. Higgins, notorious for her cat sweaters and coupon-clipping prowess, unleashed the beast. Immediately, chaos erupted. People abandoned their grocery carts like they were radioactive. Eyes darted towards the promised land. Aisle 7, home of the precious, fluffy white gold. Now, I'm not usually one to get caught up in a toilet paper stampede. I'm more of a live and let wipe kind of guy. But something about the primal fear in everyone's eyes, the desperation in their frantic grabs, ignited a fire within me. I wanted that toilet paper. I needed that toilet paper. The aisle was a war zone. Carts collided, elderly women wielded their purses like weapons, and a rogue toddler was using a jumbo pack of Charmin as a bouncy castle. I spotted my target, a 36-roll package of ultra-soft, aloe-infused perfection. It was guarded by a man who looked like he hadn't slept in days, his eyes twitching with paranoia. "Excuse me," I said, trying to sound casual. "Just admiring the, absorbency." He didn't buy it. "Back off, buddy," he snarled. "This is for my family. and my extended family, and my neighbor's family, and their pets. I knew I had to act fast. I feigned a sudden coughing fit, dramatically collapsing onto a nearby display of canned beans. While he was distracted, I swooped in, grabbed the toilet paper, and made a daring escape. But my victory was short-lived. As I sprinted towards the checkout, I tripped over a rogue cantaloupe, sending the toilet paper soaring through the air like a fluffy white missile. It landed squarely on the head of the store manager, who promptly declared a toilet paper emergency and locked down the entire supermarket. We were trapped. Aisle 7 became our Alamo. We barricaded ourselves with shopping carts, armed ourselves with expired yogurt, and prepared for the inevitable toilet paper showdown. Turns out, the emergency was caused by a rogue shipment of chili at the local soup kitchen, so the toilet paper wasn't exactly needed. In the end, the store manager apologized, gave everyone a free roll of toilet paper, the cheap, one-ply stuff, and we were released back into society, slightly traumatized but with a newfound appreciation for the simple things in life, and a lingering fear of sneezing senior citizens. The case of the missing mascot. Our small town of Dullsville was anything but dull when our beloved mascot, Percy the pigeon, vanished into thin air. Percy wasn't just any pigeon. He was the feathered embodiment of Dullsville High, a symbol of our, well, mediocrity, but still. The annual Dullsville versus Borrington football game was fast approaching, and the thought of facing our rivals without Percy sent shivers down our spines. Panic spread like wildfire. The cheerleaders threatened to boycott, which admittedly no one would notice, and the football team started blaming each other for Percy's disappearance. Enter yours truly, Mildred McMillan, self-proclaimed town detective and owner of a slightly overweight dachshund named Watson. I took the case, mostly because I needed something more exciting than knitting potholders. My investigation started at Dullsville High, the scene of the crime, the mascot's storage closet, a dusty, dimly lit space smelling faintly of mothballs and regret. The evidence: a single, suspiciously large feather and a half-eaten bag of birdseed. My prime suspect: Barry Butterfield, the disgruntled backup mascot. Barry had always been jealous of Percy's popularity, despite Percy being, a pigeon. I confronted Barry during his lunch break, which consisted of eating a mayonnaise sandwich while staring intensely at a picture of a pigeon. "Barry," I said, my voice dripping with suspicion, "where were you the night Percy disappeared?" Barry choked on his mayonnaise. I was at home, watching bird documentaries. For research." I wasn't convinced, but with no concrete evidence, I had to let him go. My next lead took me to the local bird sanctuary, a haven for feathered misfits and eccentric birdwatchers. There, I met Agnes, a woman who claimed to communicate with birds using interpretive dance. "Agnes," I said, "have you seen Percy the pigeon?" Agnes closed her eyes, swayed rhythmically, and then gasped. He's gone to Hollywood to become a movie star." Hollywood? A pigeon? It sounded ridiculous, but then again, this was Dullsville. Anything was possible. The truth, as it turned out, was far less glamorous. I found Percy stuck in a dumpster behind the local bakery, covered in donut glaze and smelling faintly of cinnamon. He'd apparently been lured in by the promise of free pastries and gotten trapped. Percy was returned to his rightful place. The Dullsville versus Borrington game was a roaring success. We lost, but with dignity, and I was hailed as a hero. All in a day's work for Mildred McMillan, Dullsville's greatest and possibly only detective. The Accidental Influencer. My name is Arthur Pruitt, and until recently, I was just a regular guy with a crippling fear of public speaking and an uncanny ability to grow prize-winning zucchini. My life revolved around spreadsheets, gardening, and avoiding social interaction. Then, disaster struck. It started innocently enough. I decided to document my zucchini growing process on social media, thinking maybe a few fellow gardening enthusiasts would be interested. I posted pictures of my seedlings, shared tips on soil composition, and even wrote a heartfelt ode to the wonders of fertilizer. To my utter shock, the internet went wild. Suddenly, I was Zucchini King, the Green Thumb Guru, and the Zook Whisperer. My follower count exploded. Brands were sending me free gardening tools, and people were begging me for zucchini growing advice. I had become an influencer. I had no idea what I was doing. I was used to talking to plants, not people. I stumbled through live streams, accidentally endorsed a brand of fertilizer that turned out to be toxic, and nearly set my garden on fire during a poorly executed grow lamp experiment. But the internet loved it. My awkwardness, my genuine passion for zucchini, and my spectacular failures only made me more popular. Then came the big one, a sponsorship deal with a major gardening company. They wanted me to host a live zucchini growing workshop in front of a live audience. My nightmare had come true. I tried to back out, but my agent, yes, I had an agent now, wouldn't let me. "This is your big break, Arthur," she shrieked. "Think of the zucchini." So I did it. I stood on that stage, sweating profusely, clutching a zucchini like a lifeline, and tried to impart my dubious wisdom to a sea of expectant faces. It was a disaster. I forgot my lines, tripped over a watering can, and accidentally released a swarm of ladybugs into the audience. But then, something amazing happened. The audience started laughing. They laughed at my jokes, they laughed at my blunders, and they laughed with me. I realized that they weren't there for zucchini growing advice. They were there for entertainment. They were there for me. I embraced my accidental influencer status. I leaned into my awkwardness, celebrated my failures, and continued to share my love of zucchini with the world. And you know what? I've never been happier. I'm still just a regular guy, but now I'm a regular guy with 1 million followers, a mountain of free gardening tools, and a profound appreciation for the absurdity of life. And of course, a whole lot of zucchini.